Eric Church is one of the most iconic stars in modern country music. Casual onlookers may know him as the guy with aviators and sometimes a ball cap pulled low on his head, but he's so much more than that. It's not easy to achieve a career balance of arena-filling mainstream appeal along with subversive, interesting quality in music, but he's one of those rare country stars that's been able to present both throughout his career. He's got a snarly voice, an immediately recognizable rock-infused sound, and a reputation as one of the best live performers in the game. News recently broke that Eric Church has been recording a new album, and there was a cryptic tweet posted that just said, "Mountains of North Carolina, coming soon." So it looks like there's a 7th album on the way, and you guys know I'll be covering it because Eric Church is one of my favorite artists. But before that drops, I want to look back at the career that Eric Church has already had. And so in today's video, I want to count down my favorite Eric Church singles, and I am doing singles as I always do. That means songs that were officially pushed to country radio. But instead of doing honorable mentions this time, I thought so we could give the album cut some love, I'll give my favorite album cut from all of Eric Church's albums. As always, this list was extremely hard to narrow down, and I had to make some really difficult cuts, but just keep in mind that these are my picks. And there might be a few choices on here that surprise you and that don't line up with what you would want. Namely, Record Year is not on this list. I'm just gonna tell you that. That's probably the biggest hit of his that didn't make my top 10. But also The Outsiders, which is just a little too rock for me. And also Love Your Love the Most, because I'm sorry, Eric, no one wants mustard on their fries.
And mustard on my fries.
But with all that said, hit like on this video and let's jump into the top 10. And number 10 is Smoke a Little Smoke.
Drink a little drink, smoke a little smoke.
Smoke a Little Smoke was released in 2010. It came off the Carolina album, and I like this song because of its naughtiness. It has a real scuzzy rock vibe to it, and I think that fits with this sort of general narrative in Eric Church's career of trying to pay homage to the outlaw era. He'll sing about pledge an allegiance to the hag or leave my Willie alone, which is an amazing line. And the lyrics of this one about unapologetically drinking or smoking whatever it is you're smoking fit with that irreverent vibe that defined the outlaw era. Mostly though, it's just a really fun time. It is a party starter of a song. At number 9 is Like Jesus Does.
Loves me like Jesus does.
I sort of like starting off this list first with a party song and then with a song where Eric Church is reflective and introspective and thankful for a love that is redeeming, because to me it represents the dichotomy of Eric Church that has really unfolded over the course of his career, which is a man that is trying to balance this wily, rough around the edges, tough, bad boy side with one that wants to grow into a good father and husband. It's not dissimilar to other really, really successful big country stars, someone like Dierks Bentley, that I would say has sort of unfolded a similar narrative over the course of his career. That black and white, good and evil, it's compelling, and it's compelling for a lot of different artists. And something I think that's cool about Eric Church is that he makes sure to include that narrative even when it doesn't necessarily pay the bills.
She forgives me when I can't.
A song like Jesus Does has no guarantee of being a hit, and this really wasn't a hit, but I still think it's a really important part of his canon. It's a song about receiving love from a woman who, despite all of his foibles, despite his toughness, despite the fact that he drinks too much and parties too much, she still loves him. He says he thanks God for her each night and twice on Saturday, which is a great line. At number 8 is Some of It.
Some of it, you learn the hard way. Some of it.
This is one of Eric Church's most recent singles. It comes off the Desperate Man album, and it has taken some of the lessons learned from Smoking a Little Smoke. It's taken some of the lessons learned from being loved like Jesus does, and it is turning it all into fatherly wisdom that is now being passed down. Eric Church is a father, and in fact, his 2 sons, I feel like, are already named to be country stars, Boone McCoy and Tennessee Hawkins. And in this song, he's just reminding them to listen to some of the lessons they're being taught in life. But he's doing it in a relaxed, parental way, realizing that kids are rebellious, they're gonna do what they want, just like he did, but there's something to some of it. There's something to some of the advice that you're being given.
Mama ain't a shrink, dad ain't a bank, and God ain't a wishing well.
I wouldn't say this song is really checklisty, it's more just listy. It's almost like the Book of Proverbs, where it's just kind of statement after statement that are all pretty good life advice. Let's veer off the countdown for a second here and talk about some of my favorite album cuts. We'll do his first 3 albums. From Sinners Like Me, which was released in 2006, my favorite album cut is definitely Lightning, which even has its own music video, even though it was never a single. And if you're part of the church choir, you know this is a beloved crowd favorite. Luke Combs has even said he thinks it's Eric Church's best song. From Carolina, which was released in 2009, I'm going with the title track, Carolina. The build that happens at the end of that song, when he keeps saying, Carolina, keep calling me home. I live in the Blue Ridge, just one state up in Virginia, and I get that the mountains of North Carolina, they do have a certain magic calling to them. And then from Chief in 2011, that album had a bunch of singles, but my favorite album cut was probably Country Music Jesus. I like the sort of revelation moment we get that's all banjos and choirs. It's just weird in the right way. Okay, back to the countdown. At number 7, it's Give Me Back My Hometown. This is a song that Eric Church wrote with one of my favorite songwriters, Luke Laird, and it came right after he dropped the single The Outsiders, and everyone's like, damn, did you go heavy metal on us, Eric? But this is one that is a lot more chill of a song, but there's a kind of simmering anger and bitterness and pettiness underneath it that make it phenomenally interesting to me. This is a song about the ways that a relationship can become physically embodied in a place, and the ways that a breakup is so much more than just a split relationally between two people. But now, certain places like your local Pizza Hut feel condemned because that's where you guys always used to go together. And Eric Church is pleading, give me back my hometown.
If you couldn't stand living here, why'd you take it? Take it.
And he's pissed at this girl that he feels like ruined his relationship with his hometown. I also love how long it takes for the percussion to come into this song. It's just sort of this reflective moment until that first chorus when the drums hit really hard. It's just a song that builds really, really effectively. At number 6 is Like a Wrecking Ball.
That old house is gonna be shaking.
This might be the most surprising single that Eric Church has ever released. It's just a sexy and very naughty little song. It comes from The Outsiders, and it is about wanting to love someone so well that you're gonna knock the sheetrock down, some pictures are gonna fall off the wall. I wanna love you, baby, like a wrecking ball. And yet the sound of this song is not like Miley Cyrus swinging naked on a ball and a wall falling down and loud and audacious. It's very smooth. We got some organ. It's sort of laid back and meant to be this sensual tone. Again, Eric Church is one of the few artists that I feel like really show a lot of the colors of life, whether that's naughtiness, whether that is religion, whether that is fatherly advice. And on songs like this and Creepin', I appreciate that we get some humorous sexual energy. At number 5, it's Drink in My Hand.
All you gotta do is put a drink in my hand.
This is certainly not Eric Church's deepest song, but in order to build a huge career, you need huge, likable hits. And often that means party songs. I mean, Chief is absolutely, I would say, his kind of defining, iconic album that really made him into a superstar, and this is what made that album such a big hit off the bat. This is a song that has a sort of effervescent swagger about it, about getting to a party, wanting to tear the place down, and really just wanting a drink in your hand and to get going and start having fun.
All you gotta do is put a drink in my hand.
And I think the emotional release that the song is suggesting is definitely captured musically here at 2. It's just fun. And number 4 is Two Pink Lines.
Sitting around waiting on 2 pink lines.
I love this song. It came pretty early in Eric Church's career, and it's definitely not one of his best known hits, but I just think it's so interesting. It's about a young couple sitting and waiting for the results from a pregnancy test because they feel too young to be parents, but they hooked up, and now she's late. I like that there's actual stakes built into the song. We've kind of been just dropped into this moment in these people's lives, but something about the harmonica brings this almost nostalgic energy to it, like you're at some hot summer concert at night. And I think that works because, spoiler alert, she's not actually pregnant.
She grabs her coat and says, see you around.
He says the rabbit didn't have to die, which is a reference to this old way that they used to test pregnancies. This scientist, Dr. Friedman, you would inject her urine into a rabbit. If the ovaries exploded, that meant she was pregnant, but you don't have to do that anymore. Now we just have the little convenience store stuff. Anyway, I like songs that have unique subject matter in them, and this one totally fits that bill. And let's go back to our album cuts for a second and finish through his catalog. From The Outsiders, which was released in 2014, my favorite album cut off that is Dark Side. As I've already said in this video, I like songs about dark sides. From Mr. Misunderstood, which came out in 2015, it's Knives of New Orleans. People that watch this channel know it's my very, 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 very favorite Eric Church song. I have a whole painting about Knives of New Orleans. It's brooding, it's got this weird dark energy to it, and then has such a rocking chorus. Perfect. And then from his newest album, Desperate Man, my favorite album cut is Hippie Radio. I love the imagery in the song and the storytelling and the guy pacing back and forth as someone is having a baby and the flower in her hair. It's just so beautiful and vivid. And then among all of his unreleased songs he's played live, it's definitely Why Not Me.
I'll ask the God of my salvation, why you and why not me?
Lovely, lovely ballad that he sang about the shooting in Las Vegas where some of his fans were slain, and he wrote a song called Why Not Me? Why did they have to die? Why not me? And it is heart-wrenching. And now let's get into the top 3, and at number 3 is Monsters.
'Cause I've learned that the monsters and angels beneath the bed.
This is Eric Church's current single, and I actually have a whole reaction up to this song, and you can see that I had a very emotional reaction the first time that I heard it. I think the words in this song are beautiful. I love the idea of a monster that's under the bed melting like butter when a mag light is shown on it, and that's how you feel when you're a little kid. You're scared of stuff, and you call in your father into the room to help you. I mean, I used to be scared of literally a ventriloquist dummy that I thought would be under my bed and get me because I read Goosebumps when I was too young. But that song goes from a childhood perspective of fear to an adult perspective of fear. And Eric Church says he's learned that the monsters aren't underneath the bed. And that means, no, there can be bad people outside of you, but also you can be the bad person. Your own personal demons can be the monsters that you're fighting, but they're not sitting there underneath your bed. There's more to think about in this world, and you just get this maturing perspective even as you get this fatherly love. And what Eric Church says he does is, he prays. And so I think you just get this fascinating perspective on being a parent, on being scared, and on the world today, and how he copes with it. At number 2, I'm saying Springsteen.
When I think about you, I think about 17.
Springsteen is a song about memory. It is sort of a snow globe of images from Eric Church's past and from this very American life of racetracks and July Saturday nights and Bruce Springsteen that remind him of a moment, remind him of being 17. And this song isn't just about like memories of being 17, it's also about a long-term romance, and that's what I think takes it over the top. When I think about you, I think about 17. I think about my old Jeep. It's rooted in the same way that something like Tim McGraw by Taylor Swift is in associating someone you love with music that you loved together at a certain time.
Springsteen.
It's definitely the biggest hit of his career because I think a lot of people relate to that song. A lot of people relate to the ways that music can take you back to this one singular moment in your life, and it just feels so immediate, so fresh, and so exciting. This song has a really driving rock energy that is reminiscent of Bruce Springsteen. People like Eric Church and Kip Moore are often compared to Bruce Springsteen for that kind of heartland rock sound, and something I like about this song is that is incorporated into a song about the music of Bruce Springsteen. And speaking of music that we love, we're now at my number 1 spot. My very favorite Eric Church single, and this one might surprise you guys, but it's Mr. Misunderstood.
First time I met Alabama Hannah, I was skinny.
I love Mr. Misunderstood for a few reasons. First off, I think it is kind of the mission statement of Eric Church all in one song. It is all the shades of him, all of his kind of outlaw vibes, with his fatherly vibes, with his party vibes, where his adoration of music vibes, all contained in one song, and he's sort of planting a flag and saying, this is who I am. And who he is a little bit misunderstood. It's hard for a lot of people to wrap their mind around Eric Church because he's not really playing the game of releasing the same song over and over and over again. And hell, that is why we love him. This song is almost an ode to a young music fan, where he is saying, I see myself in you. If you're that lonely kid sitting out in the corner, I get that. I was the kid listening to Ray Wylie Hubbard albums when no one else cared about that and practicing my guitar, and you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be fine.
Sitting in a back of the class, I was just like you.
Something I really appreciate about Eric Church is that I think he seeks to be unifying in the way he communicates with the world. On songs like The Snake from his newest record, he says, basically both political parties have their problems. Other times on songs like Mr. Misunderstood, he's just trying to create empathy and saying, I understand. But I never feel like Eric Church is trying to divide us, saying, you guys suck. It's never that. It's always him saying, I understand. And that is so there on Mr. Misunderstood. And it comes from a place of him wanting to pay it forward, the fact that he felt misunderstood. And it's not just my intellectual reflection on the song that makes me like it. I think musically, it's tons of fun as well. It's driving, it's rocking, it has that same swagger that I really love, but it flows. The verses are a lot calmer, and then it builds into an exciting, throttling song. And yeah, for me, this album is really nostalgic because when it dropped by surprise, I feel like that was the moment that my Eric Church fandom really galvanized. Even though it was the same night as Chris Stapleton debuting and kind of sucking all the air out of the country music conversation, this album came out and I think it is his masterpiece. I think Mr. Misunderstood is his best album and I freaking love this song from it. I'm glad it was a single. I think it's really underrated. And that's my top 10, you guys. So that's the end of this little Eric Church journey. I'd love to know any songs you guys think I left off the list. What are your favorite Eric Church songs? You guys know I got a ton of videos coming up and I can't wait for Eric Church to be releasing new stuff. Also, Thicket merch in the shop now, so check that out in the links below. Love y'all. See you soon.